Happy Friday, everybody. It's Whitney Beckett with Nest Realty, and I'm back trying to make real estate a little less complicated, one caffeinated clip at a time. If you've been paying attention to real estate at all lately, it feels like everything's going for way above asking. It's all about the money. Highest bidder gets everything. And that can be pretty intimidating, especially if you have a reasonable budget. Let me reassure you though, it is not always about who can spend the most money. Sure, a lot of the times it is, because nobody's out here trying to give a house away for free. From my experience in this market, there's a lot of reasons why a seller might pick an offer that doesn't necessarily have the highest purchase price. Think about it from the seller's perspective. A seller has their house on the market for a specific reason. One factor that can be super important to a lot of sellers is the time frame of the closing. For an example, maybe their seller has their house on the market because they're building a brand new house. Now, they're probably going to be trying to find a buyer who could possibly be flexible with their closing date and when they need to be able to be in the house. Because we all know with new construction, there can be delays, uncertainties, especially given the last year, everyone's looking to be a little more cautious. If a seller has 3 offers in front of them and one of them says flat out in writing, we're willing to be flexible with the closing date, maybe rent back to you a little bit if you need it, then that's probably the offer they're gonna go with because it's gonna be the least stress. Because building a house and moving all at the same time can be pretty stressful. A flip side to this, maybe the property you're buying is owned by an investor and they are using the funds from this purchase purchase another investment. They might be interested in closing as quickly as possible, and your ability to close sooner than other buyers who are interested can definitely have you a leg up in the competition. Another really important piece to an offer are your contingencies. Contingencies include financing, inspections, appraisals. Now, it's important again to go back to what the seller might be thinking. They're gonna want to pick the simplest, easiest, most sure thing. So any contingencies you are able to remove or make easier is definitely key. Let's talk about a few of those in particular, and starting with a home inspection. There are tons of houses in this market being sold without home inspections. If you're comfortable with that, that's great. That's wonderful that you can do that. But sometimes you're just not comfortable. And that's okay, particularly if it's an older home or you notice something that concerned you. A way to supplement a home inspection contingency is by trying to make it as simple as possible. So oftentimes I've advised buyers to add language into the purchase offer that says, we won't ask for any repairs or credits unless they exceed a certain dollar amount. So if it's a small thing or something that's, just a couple $1,000s to fix and it's not urgent, then that's something you can handle on your own without asking for a credit, a repair, or a price reduction. Another contingency is financing. A lot of times you probably don't have a choice in what type of financing you can get, but here's a reason why it matters. If a seller has 3 offers on the table, one is a cash offer, one is a conventional loan, and one is an FHA loan. And let's assume they all have the exact same price and the exact same inspection language and the same closing date. The offer that a seller is going to be more likely to pick is the cash offer. It demonstrates financial security, the fact that they actually have the money right now to do this. Also, it means that no one needs to do an appraisal on the house. Another contingency that we've seen removed or altered a lot in this market is the contingency upon the house appraising at purchase price. So why has this language become so important in this market? That's because offers are escalating over asking price in most cases. So forcing the purchase price up higher and higher and higher, your lender will only lend the amount of money that the appraiser says the house is worth. So purchasers who have the funds will oftentimes remove or alter the appraisal contingency in a few different ways. For example, a purchaser could say, it doesn't matter what the appraised value comes back at, I will bring the cash to make up the difference that my lender won't cover. Best case scenario for a seller, no stress, they know they're getting the purchase price for the house. And that's all well and good if you've got the money. Maybe if you don't have an extra 20 or 30 grand lying around, you do maybe have 5 and you really love the house. You could stipulate that you're willing to make up the appraisal gap by up to $5,000. Example, if your purchase price on the house is $255,000 and the appraiser says it's only worth $250,000, you'd be willing to bring in the extra $5,000 worth of cash to make the transaction go through without having to renegotiate with the sellers. It's a lot more assurance for the seller without writing a blank check for yourself, more or less. Another big contingency that could have you in the last place when it comes to purchasing a new home in this market is if you also have a home to sell. It's frustrating, but think about it from the seller's perspective. They need their transaction to go through, but first they have to make sure your transaction goes through. They don't know what your house looks like. They don't know who that buyer is, what the contract looks like. So it's a big unknown because anything can happen. And because at the end of the day, money is a big concern because money spells security and the ability to follow through the transaction. Assurance of funds can go a long way to a seller. What does that look like? Higher down payment, a bigger earnest money deposit really shows that you are serious and you have the money. So financing is less concerning to the sellers in this type of scenario. Moral of the story, if you don't have the highest bid, there's still lots of ways that you can get creative to make your offer the most attractive offer. And remember to always put yourself in the seller's shoes. They're looking at closing the biggest transaction of their lives, just like you might be. And in real estate, especially as a buyer, sometimes it's always best to remember that you can't win unless the sellers win too. Just like there's no one-size-fits-all house, there's no one-size-fits-all offer for every seller. If you are thinking of buying, have been trying to buy, or are just overwhelmed by the whole process, please reach out. I would love to chat with you about all the things you can do, all the different nuances and ways to improve your situation and make your offer stronger. So call, text, email, reach out to me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and follow me on YouTube for more video content where I teach you a little bit about real estate every week. Plan to meet up. You bring the questions, I'll get the coffee. Have a great weekend.